What is the scariest situation you can imagine?
They're either probing or launching an attack, and the evacuation system fails. 35,000 people would die.
Hackers actively trying to hack bridges and tunnels. How are you preventing them from doing so?
The ones that we worry about the most are not the economic hackers, but what we call nation state, very sophisticated, well-funded attackers.
Where do you see the biggest threats coming from as we step into 2030, 2040?
Cyber warfare becomes the wave of the future. It becomes the first source of attack between two countries that disagree, that they escalate from shutting down OT systems like water or trains to actually penetrating those systems in a way that kills people at the same time.
Your profile is very interesting. When you think about cybersecurity, you think about data protection, right? Like you may lose data or someone may get access to data. You're responsible for people not dying.
Yes.
What exactly do you do?
The organization I work for is the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, and we comprise a lot of the critical infrastructure in that region. So that includes bridges like the George Washington Bridge, which is the most traveled bridge in the world, the Holland Tunnel, the Lincoln Tunnel. These are tunnels that go under the Hudson River and connect Manhattan to New Jersey. It includes the PATH subway system. So if you're riding the train, you're going to be riding our train. It includes the maritime ports, which is close to my heart, being a maritime guy. It includes the World Trade Center, the former Twin Towers, now the Freedom Tower. And it includes all the regional airports. That's JFK, LaGuardia, Newark, Teterboro, and Stewart, the smaller airports. So we have a rich diversity of critical infrastructure that 6 million people per day commute across our facilities. And I'm responsible for the security that these folks count on to be able to commute to and from work every day.
The population for New York is 20 million and 6 million people are using your facilities. That's almost like 30% of New York is using your thing. And tell us everything that can go wrong in the field of cybersecurity.
We kind of separate cybersecurity into two kind of zones. We got IT security, information technology, and then OT security, operational technology. The operational technology, the field that I'm in, operates the different, what we call cyber physical systems. So for instance, give you an example, the Holland Tunnel and the Lincoln Tunnel, peak rush hour, about 35,000 cars or trucks are in the tunnel during rush hour. If one of those vehicles catches fire, we have a smoke evacuation system to take that smoke out of the tunnel so that it doesn't kill the people in the tunnel.
Before we go into other examples, I want you to clarify the difference between IT versus OT for people who don't understand.
Information technology is usually considered the network infrastructure, the storage, the applications, the end user devices like our laptops and phones and things like that. That's on the IT side. The OT side is the systems that take care of us. So a good example, like I said, the smoke evacuation system, the ice detection system on a bridge. But the most common is the building management systems. So like heating and air condition, emergencies, like water sprinklers for fire control, emergency control, all the elevators that are in the tall buildings, the train control system that makes the train actually get to where it's supposed to.
Driverless trains, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So all of these systems that operate, those are in the OT side of the environment. So we have a whole lot of those systems because none of those commuters, none of those 6 million people a day are going to get anywhere if the OT systems aren't functioning well, and if there's any interruption, especially at the airports. So a good example at the airport is the runway lighting system. We sure like our airplanes to be able to see where they're going to land, right? And so making sure that those lights work, that there's no water on the runway, all those kind of safety systems, those are all OT environment that I'm responsible for ensuring the safety of. So it is a heavy responsibility. And everywhere you go, people in their lives, whether it's in India or the Middle East or in North America with us, that infrastructure exists. You know, when I fly home tomorrow out of Dubai, I'll be conscious at the airport of all of those systems that I know that they have at the Dubai airport, that's an OT system. So they have a John Ballentine at that airport somewhere, making sure that all those systems function well.
What OT systems have you seen in the Dubai airport? Because right now we are here in GISEC, which is happening in Dubai. Now you're from the US, especially dealing with regions like New York and New Jersey. Compare that to Dubai. What have you seen here?
One of the differences here in Dubai is the collaboration between the airports and the government and the colleges educating the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. That collaboration seems to be seamless. I've talked to a lot of your police officials, for instance, some of the other areas, Abu Dhabi, for example, I talked to the folks there and understand that collaboration between the system owners, the language that we use in technology, but the government, academia, research, private companies. It's very closely coordinated. We struggle with that in North America. We have a lot of just divisions, right? We have
Got it.
like pods of authority and they don't coordinate as well. So I'm doing a really good job in the UAE. Lessons that I've learned that I'm going to take back and hopefully improve the way that we do the things that we do. And then, of course, I teach a lot of things to the folks here about how we succeed in our program. So it's a great collaboration. It's a great opportunity to collaborate. It's a wonderful conference, and I'm excited to be here and the 7 different speaking opportunities that I've had to share with people. It's very, very exciting.
I mean, it is the largest conference in cybersecurity in the entire Middle East region, right? It doesn't get bigger than this, and we are glad to have you over here. John, what is the scariest situation you can imagine? Something that keeps you awake at night, like if this happens, it's going to end it all. The scariest situation in cybersecurity in your humble experience so far?
The scariest is the underwater tunnels filled up with cars and the smoke evacuation system fails. And the tunnel fills up. We've done a study and determined how many people would die just because we have to know these things,
Yeah.
right? This is part of the knowing your risk and understanding the impacts. And 35,000 people would die if that one system failed. That's a really heavy responsibility, 35,000. And so when we think about other examples, accidents and terrible natural disasters and earthquakes and things like that, and I think about a fire in one of those tunnels and the system's failing, that keeps me up at night.
35,000 is almost natural disasters have that kind of impact. Right?
Yeah.
When we hear about earthquakes, when you hear about maybe even a tsunami coming, you hear that toll in that region. I didn't expect something in the world of cybersecurity can impact 35,000 people at one point in time. That brings me to my next question, John. Hackers actively trying to hack bridges and tunnels. How are you preventing them from doing so?
A different type of attack scenarios. There's 2 basically that we break them down. And one is they're just probing, doing sort of what we call reconnaissance. They're looking for weaknesses, right? They're trying to understand our structure. The other one is they're actually trying to attack. They're actively forcing, some things to happen and they're trying to attack. They've launched an attack. So they're either probing or launching an attack. So we have to build systems that monitor, that detect, that protect so that we can respond and recover. And there are international frameworks that smarter people than us have developed all these standards and guidelines and policies and ways to do these things. And then a wonderful vendor community like you have here at the conference that do research and development into new tools, new technologies, so that we can try to stay ahead of the hackers. And the ones that we worry about the most are not the economic hackers trying to get money from us, but what we call nation state, very sophisticated, well-funded attackers. Those are the ones that we worry about the most. So we have very sophisticated defenses, ones that I come to the conference and can talk about, and many that we have, I don't even understand, and I certainly couldn't talk about. But we have the concept of what's called defense in depth, right? So we have different layers of defense to protect all of the assets and to detect whether or not there's any anomalies or bad guys trying to do bad things.
In cybersecurity, most of the attacks are well-known attacks, right? Like you have history of them. But on certain times, you face day zero attacks, attacks that even you didn't know it's going to happen. It's literally happening to you. Talk to me about the worst day zero attack that you have faced and how did you deal with that whole experience?
We've had a couple of attacks. Can't talk about exactly how they happened, but we were able to pick up what was going on. So it was a 0-day attack. We were very fortunate because we have our own security operations center that monitors 24/7, 365 days a year, modeled on one that you have here in Dubai. In fact, the efficiency of the ones that you have here in Dubai, the policies and procedures we've learned from, and Dubai and UAE has shared that with the world. We've learned how to adapt thanks to that. But they were able to pick up the traces of this attack in our Security Operations Center, our SOC, and then we were able to dispatch remediation. So we sent people to hurry up and go and patch a particular piece of equipment because we knew where the bad guys were, and we had them isolated just long enough so that we could go in and put an extra layer of protection at that system. And then eventually we were able to isolate and pull that data and that code and that bad guy and get them out of there and turn it all over to law enforcement and let them do the thing that they do.
I love the fact that you mentioned about the collaboration between US and UAE. More and more countries have been collaborating right now in the field of cybersecurity, sharing information, sharing threat intelligence, because this is a common problem, right? That all of us are dealing with. And if we lay in silos and not share information, it's harmful to the entire world as we know it.
That's a great way to put it.
And what steps are you doing to encourage partnerships with other nations? For example, UAE is one of the nations that you're collaborating. What other nations are you actively collaborating with?
I am a program leader at the Port Authority for OT Security. I've been building the program there since 2019, and we built probably one of the most sophisticated programs in the world, well funded. But as we said, 6 million people a day, the motivation is there to do it well. The US government has loaned me out to other governments. So I've been loaned to one government in Europe. I'm loaned as in go live there for a year and get their program started and get it together. I also developed a program for NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So I helped get their OT security program developed and running and funded and staffed. That's the kind of collaboration we do.
And it goes both ways. I'm sure even the UAE is implementing some of the best practices of US. Talk to me more about the other collaborations that you have going on, which is a mutual win-win for all parties involved.
The US government has loaned me out as a OT security program leader to architect programs in other countries. So one in Western Europe, I did the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. I developed their OT security program as well. And we have had folks from the Middle East that have come to the US and collaborated. I've seen colleagues here that I met 10 years ago that have come, for instance, one individual that came to the UAE embassy 10 years ago and sharing with us some of the cybersecurity lessons that they'd learned in their early days 10 years ago. It's been a great collaboration. And this event here is a form of collaboration right here that we're experiencing now. The coordination, the work that we do together with the folks in a session like this is absolutely essential. Without this event, we would have to struggle to do this one-on-one. By bringing everybody together, it's an amazing event.
John, in the field of operational technology, you already explained to us how critical it is, and if not done well, it could lead to human deaths. You said that 35,000 people could die at a time, right? And the number can be more. It can be a lot more. We are currently in 2025. Where do you see the biggest threats coming from as we step into 2030, 2040? What are you predicting, John?
The biggest threat that I see is the use of operational technology attacks and warfare being conducted between nations that are at war with each other. They attack the infrastructure because you can either put up an airplane with bombs and destroy the infrastructure, or you can destroy it with cybersecurity attack. One costs a whole lot more, takes a whole lot more time, and has less result certitude. And the other is no big deal. You just try it. If it doesn't work, you try something else. My biggest fear for the future is that cyber warfare becomes the wave of the future when nations disagree with each other and they seek to have their grievance through cyber warfare. That's my biggest worry.
And what you mentioned over here, I think it's already happened in the past. I think in the war between Russia and Ukraine, cyber warfare was actively fought, right? And the thing that is also scary is nations are using it, without directly instilling it, because cyber warfare can happen in silence without a nation actively claiming the responsibility for it. Does that scare you, John?
My biggest fear is that cyber warfare proliferates. It becomes the first source of attack between two countries that disagree, that they escalate from shutting down OT systems like water or trains to actually penetrating those systems in a way that kills people at the same time. So that cyber warfare becomes not a critical infrastructure, but a human fatality based cyber warfare. And that change from attacking the infrastructure to attacking the people that the infrastructure serves, that's my biggest worry. And that's what we saw recently in Eastern Europe in the current conflict that's there, is the use of cyber warfare to attack people rather than just the systems themselves.
Thank you so much, John. This interview has been very insightful. Thank you for sharing all these insights. And I'm sure whoever is watching it in the field of OT or even in the field of IT, because I think a lot of these are pretty integrated these days, they would have learned a lot from you. Any final words, John, before we sign off from this interview?
It's a wonderful event. I've learned a lot. I know a lot of people have learned a lot, and I wish you success in helping get that message out. The last thing I'll say is everybody who's here are the good guys. We're on one side of the table, collaborating and trying to protect the people that we love and the people that are in our communities. And they're bad guys that are out there. So even what we're doing here right now is part of the solution, part of our protection. So thank you for doing this.
Absolutely. It's all about raising awareness, John. The more people know about it, the more they're aware, the more they can protect themselves and their loved ones. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast, John. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you.